None of us ever look like what we've been through, right? Especially as entrepreneurs. If I had hair, my hair would literally be gone along my entrepreneurial journey. But I'm excited to be here, excited to be in this city, excited to be here during such a pinnacle week for entrepreneurship, the celebration of it, the knowledge sharing of it as well. And so what I want to take y'all through is a framework that has been really helpful for me and transformational along my entrepreneurial journey. And I'm just going to keep pressing until they got me on my slides. But let me know by raising your hand or making some noise if you are looking to step into new ways of being able to run your business, accelerate your income and your revenue, and more impact. Make some noise or raise your hand for me. Cool, I love it. And if I can show you how to do that in 5 moves, listen y'all, in 5 moves, can you commit to massive action leaving here today? Make some noise or raise your hand. Cool. And so I'm gonna walk you through a framework called the Genius Jam Framework, but I'm also gonna ask you a series of questions because I believe that the quality of your questions determine the quality of your life. And if you wanna have a bigger, richer, more expansive and expansive life, then you gotta ask bigger, richer, more expensive and more expansive questions about yourself, and more importantly, to the people that are around you. That is why our questions are so important, because it's data that we get back. We get to process that as insights, and then it helps us figure out what our next best move should be. And so raise your hand if you're an entrepreneur, just so I know. Okay, cool. Everybody. Anyone in the room like a dreamer? Like I'm almost there. I'm touching the hem of entrepreneurship, but I'm not quite there yet. Okay, cool. And then anyone in here a career professional? Like, hey, I'm holding it down with my 9 to 5, and guess what? There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, cool. I love it. I'm here for it, because oftentimes our businesses are what gives us the experience and oftentimes the investment dollars in the form of our salary that we can start putting into and injecting capital into our businesses. All right, someone tell me what's one of the biggest problems or biggest issues keeping you up at night? Like the thing is like, goodness gracious, if I can just figure this thing out, it will really help me like be able to accelerate what I'm doing. Anyone want to raise your hand? Tell me, right here.
Steps to get to that next stage.
Steps, tell me a specific step, because there's a lot of steps.
A lot of times you'll know what you want, you'll have the ambition and the drive to get there, but it's just the details behind getting to that next step.
Okay.
In the sense of who to ask, where to get the funding, getting out of your own way and thinking you can achieve it.
Okay. And tell me what your business is.
Let's go ride. We do go on the dark bike ride.
I know you. I've seen your posts. You got your application in. I see it. Look at you. Look at you. I love it. I love it. Okay, go ride. Okay, perfect. Right here.
For me, it's the intersection between building my own social capital and then making sure I'm aligning myself with the right people who, even if they can't understand my vision, believe in me enough to like help me, facilitate that vision.
Nice. I love that. So many times along the way of building multiple companies, selling companies, closing companies, I've had to sometimes borrow the belief that other people had in me before it was my own. And that's perfectly fine. And sometimes that's the fuel and the accelerant in which you need to just get you to that point where those beliefs now become yours, right? Because everything starts with our beliefs that then turn into our thoughts, that then turn into like our actions, right? And oftentimes turn into the words that we either say to ourselves or like how we communicate the value of what we're bringing into the marketplace, right? But it all starts with our thoughts and our beliefs in what we can do and what's possible. There's a famous Tom Ford quote that says, whether you believe that you can or you can't, guess what? Either way, you're right. If you believe that you can do it, you're right. If you believe that you can't do it, guess what? You are literally also right. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Right here.
So mine is how to know when something is tangible enough to go for it full time. I'm a college student, but I really believe in my business, and that's what I want to do full time. But I have a great opportunity at Georgia Tech, so I don't necessarily want to just leave without knowing I have the tangible. I can go do this.
What would make it feel tangible for you?
Not more for me, more for my parents and things. I know my business will succeed.
Yeah.
100% into it.
Yeah.
So they kind of like to
Hey, you an engineer, dude. You always gonna be good. What are we talking about right now? I'm just messing with you.
If I finish the degree.
Okay, so if you finish it, but you have an opportunity right now, guess what? You know what? College is not going anywhere. You literally can always go back, right? And I was like, if this is a very specific moment that is only available to you in this time, then go take the thing and do the thing. And tell your parents to call me. Tell them to DM me if you need to, right? But I had to make that decision once. And I had a really amazing opportunity with one of the first businesses that I started called Urban Excellence. It was an educational consulting company. Y'all, my mom forced me to start this business. I have been raising money for a really long time. I was a C student in high school. My freshman year of high school, I majored in the 2 Bs. Can anyone want to take a guess? If you could major or minor in anything in high school, I majored in the 2 Bs. Someone hit it right on the head. Boys was one. And what? I'm kind of tall. Basketball was the other, right? And so if you could literally major and minor in anything in high school, I majored and minored in boys and basketball. Those are my priorities at 14 years old. And as a result of that, guess what was not my priority? School. And so by the end of my freshman year of high school, my GPA was a 2.150. Why do I remember that? Because those were also the last few digits of my home phone number at the time. Never forget it. And at that point, when you are a young person, growing up in a small city, I grew up in Delray Beach, Florida, like an hour away of Miami. And then people are like, oh, okay, I know where you're from. I always have to use that reference, right? That's when they start saying, hey, you need to enroll in dropout prevention classes. Or like, college is not for you. And I knew that I wanted to go to college. Moreover, I knew that I had to go to college because I have a Caribbean mother. My mother is from Jamaica. My dad is from South Georgia. Made for a very interesting childhood. That's all I'm gonna say. But what I did know is I had to go to college. How I was gonna get there, I had no idea. Fast forward to my senior year, I go to meet with my guidance counselor. I'd never met with this lady before the way that I should have, because relationships matter in anything that you're doing. I didn't know that. I learned that the hard way. I go meet with this lady. I'm sharing my hopes and dreams with her. Like, hey, I want to, at the time, go to the University of Central Florida. At the time, and I'm dating myself a little bit, the people around my age and older will know what I'm talking about, but I wanted to be a music video producer like Hype Williams. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about. I was just like, oh my gosh, the imagery, amazing. That's what I wanted to do at the time. I'm a kinesthetic learner. I didn't do that well in the classroom. But like, I love immersive experiences. I thrive in it, and I get it, and I know exactly what to do with it when I get it, right? Knowing how you learn, how you process information is extremely important, and oftentimes that's not afforded to us as young people. I'm gonna tell y'all the story really quick, and I'm gonna jump into the actual presentation. And so I'm meeting with this lady. Don't really know her, she doesn't know me. All she knows is what she sees on the computer screen. So I'm telling her I want to go to the University of Central Florida. I want to major in TV production at the time or something in communication. Please guide me on my yellow brick road to success. She looks at me, she looks at the computer screen, she looks back at me, and she says some words to me that have stayed with me my entire life. Felecia, you'll never make it to a college or a university. Ooh. Who says that to a 17-year-old? You don't know me, but only what you see on a computer screen, and you're trying to define what the rest of my life is going to look like. If I would have listened to what that lady said, I would not be on this stage with you today. I wouldn't. And so raise your hand if anyone has ever told you that you could not achieve something that deep down in your heart you know that you could. Raise your hand, okay. And keep your hands up if you dedicated your first book to that person. I'm the only petty one in this room, is that what we're saying? I literally, if you look at my first book, the C Student's Guide to Scholarships, because I was a C student, the first page is dedicated to that guidance counselor. Because she did two things. She said something that I was a C student. I took like deductive reasoning and said, you know what? We're all gonna walk across that stage with the exact same paper. Nobody knows what's on it. As long as I'm done and out of here. Probably wasn't the best thinking, but I was just like, I can just do what I do, and as long as I pass, I am good. I can go out and lead the rest of my life. I don't know if this is amazing or positive advice to kids, but I'm here. Right? And so it was like this brain that was just kind of churning. I was also one of those kids that I taught myself how to code when I was 16. And I learned how to rewire cable into my room because my parents bought me a TV for Christmas. They didn't really want me to watch the TV. So I had this TV with just like all these fuzzies every time you just flip the script and flip the channel. I'm dating myself again. Because y'all like, why don't you just watch YouTube? No, we have YouTube. I was the first of my friend group to get a computer, a laptop, I should say. Not a computer, I'm not that old, but a laptop. But I was given permission to break things and put things back together. And when you're an entrepreneur and you're thriving and you're striving, so much about what you need to do and can do and have an environment is to break things and be able to put them back together. And be able to tinker and see what it looks like. And that's why when we're thinking about communities that foster innovation and support in entrepreneurship, you need to have a level of like failure capital and failure opportunity. And I know it's really hard to understand, but innovation only comes from being able to make mistakes, having the runway and support, and it's not this final thing. And it's really hard to understand in diverse communities because you're like, what do you mean failing? My parents do not understand fail fast. It's like, no, you better not ever fail. But there's innovation and nuance in that. So long story short, this lady tells me, not only, Felecia, will you never make it to a college or a university, you should probably just try and get a job or go to a vocational school. I was like, ma'am, not even community college? They literally have programs for everybody. You can have a 1.1 and say, we will help you figure it out. It might take you 7 years to get out of community college, but we got a program for you, right? Most community colleges. This lady thought so little of me, not from a relationship, but just what she saw on a computer screen to tell me that college, with the myriad of programs that they have, is not even in your cards. And all of us are centered around people that will not ever see our vision. No matter how amazing or no matter what you're doing, they will not see it. And you cannot borrow their belief. You have to hold on to what you know is your truth. And your North Star and your why has to be so strong because that part, that doubt that seeps in from people or things like that is a part of every step of your journey. She told me I'd never make it to a college or university. Just go find a job or get into vocational school. I also had my Jamaican mother that I told you about. Told me I had to go to college. So I'm like, I might have to go into the military. Nothing wrong with the military. I scored like 99%. I missed one question on the ASVAB. The military was calling me left and right. I just knew I had to pay for college. So my mom said, you got to go to college, but you got to figure out a way to pay for it. What I learned through technology and teaching myself how to code and rewiring cable and being able to tinker and be active in all these different things, I learned a few things. I learned analytical and logistical thinking, that I can solve any problem. So I started filling out applications for scholarships. Anywhere that I could find them, I was applying. I had this one career counselor who told me during lunch, because I went in there with the wrong set of eyes, the only what I could hear and remember that guidance counselor telling me that I'd never make it to a college or university. And so when I get into a room full of applications that are opportunities for me to prove her wrong, I'm only looking for the things in the vein of nothing in here is for me because of what this one person said to me. So we have to be very careful about who we listen to in our entrepreneurial journey. Extremely, extremely careful. So I go around the table, I get ready to leave. I'm like, nothing in here is for me. And she said one thing to me. She said, Felecia, go around the table and look at it again with a different set of eyes, because I promise you, there's something there for you. I was like, I don't have time for this. I got to go get pizza. Lunch is almost over. But I grab every single application and I take it home. And when I sit at home and really process it, I start to see that there's all these different opportunities that don't require a GPA, or the GPA requirement is really low. Or like I could qualify for it before the deadline. Like, do you play golf? I don't play it currently, but I can join the golf team. And then before the deadline, which is in 3 months, and now I qualify for this PGA, because they didn't say you got to be good. They just asked, do you play golf? Not yet, but I will before the 3 months is up. And guess what? I was able to apply for that opportunity. Getting creative with limited resources. You're always getting creative with limited resources, but you've got to look at opportunities with a different set of eyes. Fast forward to senior award night, I'm sitting in this massive opportunity, massive like auditorium, sorry. And I'm like, if they don't call my name today, I literally got to go to the Marines office tomorrow. My mother is not playing, like at all. My mom is a lifelong learner. She has more degrees than anyone in our family. She's a PhD educator, all those things. So she's not playing about education. I was playing. My brother was playing. She's not playing. Anyways, they're calling all these students up, National Honor Society. Papa John's is delivering scholarship checks in pizza boxes. I'm like, what is this place? They're calling everybody's name but mine. It gets closer to the end of the night. I am sweating bullets, y'all. Because I'm like, if they don't call my name, I got to go to the Marines office tomorrow. Nothing wrong with the Marines. It just wasn't for me. I can only do 6 push-ups. That's it, right? Huh? And so all of a sudden they call my name. And 3 familiar women get up on that stage. And as I start to walk closer to this big stage in this big auditorium with all my peers, all my teachers, all the things, I start to see that there's a few zeros on this check. What do y'all think the check said? Let's throw out an answer. $1,000, friend, no. Say it again. The check said $100,000 on it. $100,000. 6 months before that, I was told I could never make it to a college or a university because of my grades. And I said, try me, boo, right? And I proceeded to prove her wrong. But more than anything, I proceeded to prove something of myself, of a strength and an ingenuity and a creativity that I did not know that I had. And I would not have if this woman didn't say this thing to me. But more than anything, I didn't look at it with another set of eyes and realize it was a massive opportunity for me. I ended up winning $130,000 in scholarships and grants to go to Lynn University in Boca Raton, Florida. But remember, y'all, I said there were 3 familiar faces on that stage. 2 were from the scholarship committee of this organization called Communities in Schools. Literally wrote 5 really dope essays, all this volunteerism in order to get this application. Who do you think that 3rd person was? That guidance counselor. Can y'all believe that? I was like, you weren't with me shooting in the gym. What is this? I kind of wanted to kick her off the stage a little bit, but I'm like, I just want a lot of money, y'all. I'm gonna be very professional. But that was my story that set me on this path of realizing a few things at 17 years old. One, that you can get very creative with limited opportunities, and you have to get creative. You always got to stay in the pocket of your creativity. I learned that at a really young age. I also understood and learned at that age, at 17 years old, that people will define you by your obstacles before they ever define you by your opportunities. And you have to know that, so when it creeps up on you, you can recognize it and you don't embody that. And then more than anything, the last part, 2 other things. I learned some really big lessons in personal marketability. Lessons that I use to this day. You know what? Yeah, my grades sucked. By the time I graduated high school, I never touched a 3.0. Maybe on the way down, but never on the way up. I graduated high school touching the hem of a 2.7 GPA. But I walked away from high school with more scholarship money than most of my peers that had A's and were part of National Honor Society, all the things. And so I learned some clear lessons. You know what? If my grades are not my shining star and point, then let me shine the light on the things that are, the things that make me unique, the things that make me stand out, the things that interest me. And I build a personal brand around that. And I highlight that, and I tell the story of those things. Because guess what? They matter and they are who I am, but they also add light and color to why my GPA, if that is the thing that you want to judge me on, why it's a little sketchy, right? Those are the things. And the last thing is like, how do I create opportunities for others so that what I went through, they never go through again? And those are the lessons that I literally learned at 17 that have guided my entrepreneurial journey over the past 20 plus years, and is why I get to do the work that I do right now with Black Ambition. And so Black Ambition, going into the slides, and thank you, friends, for helping me with that. I was gonna keep going anyways. Y'all see, I got it. All right, and so what I get to do right now is the CEO of Black Ambition Opportunity, Inc., right? Where we invest in Black, Hispanic, and HBCU entrepreneurs, not just in capital, but in community, in care, and connections, and coaching. There's like 5 to 6 C's that kind of really guide our work. But the organization was founded by that guy right there, who I feel is one of the most epic and creative dreamers on this planet. Like, the dreams, is this being recorded? Okay, I'm not gonna go into some of the dreams you share. I was just like, are we doing this? Is this working? Yes, go figure it out and make it happen. And I love that push on the creative landscape of things, because it forces you to really think about things and possibilities in ways that I had my own limitations around. And so we invest in entrepreneurs between $25K all the way to $1 million. I'm not gonna make eye contact, but I see one of our entrepreneurs here with Suds Laundry, Chris. But what I wanna share with you is actually one of the first conversations that I had with Pharrell when I came on board. I had built an organization called the Center for Black Innovation in Miami, and then we'd also built a conference called Black Tech Week that we'd been running for 7 years. We actually did one of our conferences in New Orleans during Essence Music Festival years ago. Sold the conference about 2 years ago to an organization called Lightship Capital. They've gone on to do some really phenomenal things. That was the work that I was doing before I got asked by Pharrell's chief of staff to come lead what I really call like this rocket ship in support of entrepreneurs. It was also, I've never been able to give direct investments and capital away in the work that I had been doing 10 years prior to coming on board for Black Ambition. So it meant that part of the ecosystem connection point. Whenever people ask you, what do entrepreneurs need aside from the capital that you keep putting aside, the money that you keep putting aside, that's what they need. And that you cannot move over or gloss over that fact, right? And so one of the very first conversations that we had, actually I'm gonna go back before y'all see that question. One of the very first conversations we had, we were talking about this show on HBO, this sci-fi series by Jordan Peele. Y'all know what I'm talking about? It's called Lovecraft Country. Anyone familiar with it? Thank you that you're familiar with it, because it is so good, but it's very hard to explain to people who have not seen it. Very hard to explain, but it's good. Go watch it. Can you get me a tissue, please? And so we're having this conversation about the show. Episode 5, there's 2 characters, Christina and Ruby. Christina has all these mystical powers. She can literally make things appear and disappear. Anything that you need done, any problem, any hater, like any of the things, she can make it completely disappear. Go away, your problem is solved. Anything that you want, she can literally make happen. And she's sitting right next to this woman named Ruby. Ruby feels quite powerless. She feels like she has no agency over her life. She feels like she wants these things, she wants to be able to do things, she has these hopes and dreams that she cannot actualize. And so that means that she feels that she has no agency over her life. I know what that feels like. Thank you so much. I know what that feels like. And some of you probably know exactly what that feels like too. Raise your hand and let me know. You want to do things, you want to accomplish things, you want to have a legacy, you want to build wealth, you want to be disruptive, but you feel like you don't necessarily always have the power in which to achieve the things. I think my friend over here somewhere said, the next level, the next step, I'm trying to figure it out and I don't necessarily know where to go. Well, that was what Ruby felt in those moments. And Christina turns to Ruby and she asks her this question. Christina turns to Ruby and she asks her, who are you uninterrupted? I was like, whoa. I never heard that question before in my entire life. In my entire life. I've worked for some of the top companies in the world. I worked for Nintendo and Sony and the NBA. I also work for McKee Foods. Some of y'all may not know who McKee Foods is, but if I tell you their products, you know, Little Debbie snack cakes. It was a very random time of my life. But I led an experiential marketing campaign for them all across the United States to collect 1 million smiles. I'm gonna tell you a deep secret about this. Y'all ready? Don't eat the oatmeal cream pies. I know, I disappointed some people. There's actually no oatmeal in the oatmeal cream pies. That's crazy, right? And if you look at like the calories on the back, the oatmeal cream pies actually have some of the highest amount of calories in all of their products over the sticky and honey buns. So if you thought you were being healthy, like, I'm being healthy, I'm gonna eat that oatmeal cream pie. It actually has no oatmeal in it. All right, before I get back to this, because this is important, I'm gonna bust your bubble a little bit more. The oatmeal cream pies, I know this is gonna sound awful, are made the exact same way hot dogs are made. Oh, get worse. They're like, Calvin's like, who we brought in here? They don't have hot dog meat in it. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is oatmeal cream pies are actually made from the scraps of whatever is made in the factory that day. So if you open up any 2 different boxes of oatmeal cream pies, they're never quite the exact same shade. There's no hot dogs in it. That's a horrible example, but y'all get what I'm saying, right? And so you can still eat them. They're delicious, but they're actually not much more healthier than, so eat any of the things is what I'm saying if you're gonna eat that. Anyways, I learned that from one of the factory workers along my journey, yeah.
So why do they call it oatmeal?
I mean, why do we call anything anything? I don't know. I can't answer that, friend, but I'm just saying I have stayed away from them for the past like 15, 20 years. All right. Anyways, and so this question, who were you uninterrupted? I'd never been asked that question in my entire life working for some of the most innovative companies in the world. Moreover, I could not answer that question when I heard it. And then moreover, I wanted to finish the episode because it was also really good. And so I wrote it down. And y'all, it took me a full week to fully step into that question, the weight of that question, how important that question is, and how transformational that question literally has been to my life. And so that was the first question that first conversation that Pharrell and I had about what does it mean to build Black ambition as an organization? What does it mean to be ambitious? Well, to be ambitious means to be uninterrupted. No matter who you are or what you're building. If at every intersection of your life, the light is never red, it's never yellow, it is only green, who would you be? What would you build? What would you do? That's the weight of that question. How powerful you can be if nothing ever stood in the way of you achieving success. And I know for some of you, this is a very big question to sit with. Because you're like, Felecia, there's always interruptions. Yes, life is a massive interruption over and over and over again. But if you can dream and build an organization, a company, a life, a legacy that's uninterrupted, if you can dream that big, then you can align and attract the resources to help you get there and mitigate the interruptions that happen. So yes, you're going to be interrupted, but it doesn't stop you, is what I'm saying. Right? And as an organization, we've built like this kind of pipeline and circle and community to make sure that the pathway to entrepreneurship and the pathway through entrepreneurship is as uninterrupted as humanly possible. But I want y'all to take 60 seconds. I see many of you have those really amazing orange BREW notepads. And I want you to try to answer this question. Why? Because we cannot expect results from work that we have not done. And so 60 seconds starting now. And if you're looking at me, that means that you're not working. All right, time. Who took a stab at answering the question? Good, good, good. Anyone want to share? The hands went down so fast. And this is when people stop making eye contact with me. Right here.
I started my journey a little bit older, so I've already had this, but uninterrupted, I'm the person to make sure that people will never die or get sick because they didn't know how to take their medicine.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. Please give her a round of applause. Right here, Andrew.
Yeah, I say uninterrupted. I'm really a visionary that can turn an idea into something tangible.
I like
Not only for myself, but for others. So a lot of people don't fully build their ideas because they don't see the route to it. And I think I can help a lot of people do that.
So you can help people unlock like their vision at like the highest level. I love it. Okay, give them a round of applause. Let me take one more. This side has been real quiet right here.
A community leader engaging others through bike rides, health and wellness events to change the narrative of low-income areas not having access to the tools.
Friend, you do that already. So tell me what you are if nothing stood in the way of that.
I was doing it on a national plane in communities across the country, because doing it here in Baton Rouge is giving me the position to understand that every community has a necessity. Every community needs that type of outlet to where there's mental health breaks throughout the day.
I love it. You see what happened when you dig a little deeper? I love it. Why are quality questions important, right? One of my favorite quotes from Tony Robbins: the quality of your questions determine the quality of your life. Why? Because many of us, when we're building companies, and I've been there before, like if we're not really, really clear about what we do, who we serve, where we're trying to go, where our numbers are, what our impact is, what our burn rate, a confused mind will make very poor choices, or guess what? No choice at all. And you stay stagnant and in the same position that you were the first time you dreamt of the idea. And so you have to get very clear. And so why I love teaching Zone of Genius is because it takes out all the confusion and gets you on a path to clarity about what your highest value is and your highest contributions are into the marketplace in which you're building your business. And so someone take a screenshot of this, because this is one of my favorite quotes. A confused mind makes very poor choices or no choice at all. All right, and so I'm going to tell you this story really quickly, because I know I spent some time telling y'all the scholarship story because I was waiting for my team to support me, and they supported me. They held me down. All right. About 17 years ago, I found myself in very cold Minnesota. Cold Minnesota. I'm from Florida, y'all. Florida. What do you think would make a Florida girl end up in Minnesota? Someone say boys. A man. At this time, it's a man. My husband, now husband, then fiance. Basketball too. Literally, Lord, I never made that. Boys and basketball again. Lord, thank you. I never made that connection. Yes. My husband, Morehouse man, ended up in Minneapolis, Minnesota with a job as a financial analyst for Target. Target's headquarters in Minnesota. And he's like, come to Minnesota with me. I was like, ooh, it's real cold. But I came. And I thought love was going to keep me warm. Not necessarily. There was a night where it got down to negative 32-degree wind chill. I would say, it's time to go home. Anyways, while I was there, before I packed up my bags, it was just too cold for me, I ended up with a job as a front office marketing manager with the Minnesota Timberwolves, but over the marketing for the Minnesota Lynx, the WNBA team. At the time, and if anyone follows basketball, I'm gonna go into sports just a little bit, real quick, right? At the time, Kevin Garnett had just left the Timberwolves. Whew, you talk about being cold in Minnesota? It was cold in the front office because both teams, the NBA team and the WNBA team at that time, had the worst records in both of their respective leagues. It was hard. That means that sponsors didn't want to sponsor. That means no one wanted to buy season tickets. And guess what? Nobody even wanted to buy or even take free tickets. You could literally at the time buy tickets to the nosebleed and walk right down to the floor and nobody was bothering you. We were like, actually, can you move over so your head is in the shot so it looks like it was bad? And Chris Wright, the general manager, called us all into the auditorium, everyone in the front office, because guess what? When those things happen on the court, morale is really low in the front office. And what was really happening is all of us kept saying, if the team just start winning, the phone would ring again. And if the team would start winning, our sponsors would come back. And if the team would start winning, our games would start being televised. It was all about if the team on the court start winning. At least 20 of those conversations every single day in the front office. That's all we could talk about. The morale was extremely low. He called us all into this office, into this auditorium, started asking us and pointing at us, really random, are you 50 game ready? And they asked, are you 50 game ready? They said, are you 50 game ready? Y'all, when your general manager calls everyone into the auditorium, yeah, you're a little nervous. Like, are we all getting the pink slip? Like, what's going on? And then when he starts asking you this random question, like, are you 50 game ready? You kind of like, yeah, I don't know if I should say yes or no. Which one is the right answer? Are you 50 game ready? He proceeds to go on and explain it, because by this time we're all looking at him confused. Should we say yes or no? We don't know. If you know sports, 50 game ready also means 0.500. It means that you've won the same amount of games that you've lost. I'm gonna say that one more time. You've won the same amount of games that you've lost, 0.500. But guess what? You're still on track to making it to the playoffs. And if you make it to the playoffs, what happens? Someone scream it out. The energy comes up, yes, ticket sales, definitely. But there's something very specific that happens when you make it to the playoffs. What happens? Huh? You get refocused, but you get a clean, you play basketball? A little bit, right? You get a completely clean slate. Your losses in the past no longer matter. Your wins only matter. Your losses no longer matter. You get a clean slate. And because you get this clean slate, you're competing with the top in your industry to make it to the championship. Are you 50 game ready, he said. And so what he was saying by that is, it's a slight responsibility for everyone on the court externally. But you know whose real responsibility it is? If we get to a point where we're 50 game ready, ours, internally in the front office. And the foundation that needs to be set from a business standpoint and a personal standpoint to be able to handle and then maintain your winning season. And so many of us are hoping and wishing and praying for the floodgates to open, for the phone calls to happen, for the conversion of leads into actual dollars, for the investment dollars to come in, for the partnerships to come in. Is your foundation 50 game ready? And if it's not, guess what? Who also has a really famous quote? Mike Tyson said, if you are not prepared for success, it will punch you in the face. And I don't want to be punched in the face by Mike Tyson. Jake Paul might be. What is it, Jake Paul? I'm not going to go into that. But the lesson that I learned in that moment as an employee is something that has guided me on my journey as an entrepreneur. Making sure that the foundation is always happening. In those dark days when things aren't necessarily going right, you don't give up and just say like, man, once the phone starts ringing, be prepared. You gotta be prepared for the onslaught of the opportunity that you're hoping and wishing and praying for. If not, your business will crumble. And so there's all these studies that have actually shown that, y'all remember Oprah had like the book club and things like that, and Oprah's favorite thing? There's actually a large amount of companies that crumbled after being featured on Oprah. They were not 50 game ready. They got the opportunity and they did not build the foundation. And what I mean by that is not to slow down, but also really also make sure you always remember the foundational, fundamental stuff. Because in this startup world, everyone gets so excited and so wild about all the things, and then when you're ready to invest in the company, well, their books aren't together. And their team is not together. And there's all these different things that they literally got the thing that they're asking for, but in the days in which they were asking, they weren't in preparation. And so we have to be 50 game ready. All right, what can you expect to learn today? I want you to power up and Power up and get to a point where you never question who you are and what you do anymore, right? I want you to understand that this is a transformational journey for geniuses. This is a framework. At the core of transformation and this framework for innovators, because you're all innovators, innovation at its core is just a new way of doing things. That word sounds really, really cool, but what it means is a new way of doing things. And all of us during the pandemic have been tested in new ways of doing things, right or wrong. So that's why I said none of us look like what we've been through, because the pandemic literally tested us to our core, especially as business owners. And then I want you to be prepared to mentally design the future. What I ask of you in return, this is where Calvin's like, Felecia, where is this going? Joe the Tiger King. I'm going to tell you why Joe the Tiger King is in my presentation and remains in my presentation. First of all, I want you to gather all the receipts. What are receipts, y'all? What are receipts? They're facts, but I'm looking for something just a little bit more on that. What are receipts? Evidence, proof of purchase, that you've been here before, and guess what? You can do it again. And again, and again, and again. That's what scalability means in startups, right? You have a repeatable process in which you can achieve success and results. And a lot of us forget we got receipts in moments when people question us, in moments when investors are looking and evaluating our deck and our conversations and they're pushing back on you. Remember your receipts. Communicate your receipts. Most of you in this room have receipts longer than a CVS receipt. Why are CVS receipts so long? But y'all have them. Use them. Remember them. Never forget who you are and what your journey has been. I want you to channel the epic and unapologetic confidence of Joe the Tiger King or a 5-year-old child. I got a 5-year-old and a 10-year-old. My 5-year-old, you cannot tell him that he can't do anything. That is like the charge. Yes, I'm Superman, and I'm gonna tie a towel around my neck and find the highest thing that I can stand upon in this house and jump. And yeah, I may stumble and hurt myself, but guess what? I'm gonna find the next highest thing and jump, because mommy, you are not going to tell me that I am not Superman. We gotta hold on to that childlike ambition in what we're building. Or Joe the Tiger King. Why? Joe the Tiger King got introduced to us at a time that if he got introduced to us any other time in our life, I don't think it would have caught on. The world had literally bottomed out for us and can it get worse? Joe the Tiger King is gonna show us that it can get worse, right? Anyways, why I want you to channel the epic and unapologetic confidence of Joe the Tiger King is one very specific reason. When Joe was introduced to us, he didn't just say, hey, I'm Joe, and I got some tigers, and I live in Oklahoma. He didn't say that. What did he say? What did he say? This is when no one wants to admit that they watched Joe the Tiger King with me. Okay. He said, I'm Joe the Tiger King, and you are going to call me and respond to me accordingly. He told us who he was. And so when you're in front of investors and you're in front of corporate partners, you got to tell them who you are. If not, they will tell you who you are. And that is a recipe for disaster. He said, I am not just Joe, I'm Joe the Tiger King. So y'all listen, because you're writing notes. Do not channel the craziness of Joe the Tiger King. That is not what I'm saying. They're like, man, I went to this startup week event and this lady said, be like Joe the Tiger King. I'm gonna go get some tigers in Oklahoma. That is not what I'm saying. But success, even random success, leaves clues. You have to tell people how to treat you. You have to introduce yourself to the marketplace. If you want a luxury brand, you have to act like a luxury brand and tell people you're a luxury brand. Otherwise, they will only compare you to whatever it is that they know. And then step into who you are uninterrupted. You are in the right place. If you're struggling to balance it all, if you're ready to step into new ways of finding your personal genius and say yes to yourself in a new way. Last slide on this. You are in the wrong place if you are Miss Beyonce. I think she knows what her genius is. Y'all agree? I think she does. And if you ever question if Beyonce knows what her genius is, all you have to look at is what happened this past summer. She got thousands of people all across the world to dress up in foil paper. Thousands of people. And pay. I think she's in her genius. She's in her bag and she's in her genius. So how does the song go? Beyonce joined us here today. How does the song go? To the left, to the left? We're going to tell Beyonce to go to the left. Everyone else, let's dig into it. And so I want to take you through 2 quick exercises, and then we have time for questions, right? Okay, cool. How many decisions do you think the average human being makes any given day? How much? She's like 350. Not close, my friend. Bob Barker, we got to get close without going over. How many decisions do you think the average human being makes on any given day? Thank you for sharing that, though. Come on. Higher, higher, higher. No, way more than that. What'd you say? No, not exactly. Not 3. But the 3 part of what you just said is important. Come on. Someone said it. 30, who said 30,000? Right here. The average human being makes 30,000 decisions every single day. And I know when you said 350 or 1,800, you're thinking about the big decisions. But to blink or not blink is a decision. To go left or go right is a decision, right? To wear that shoe or not wear that shoe is a decision. To cuss that person out or not cuss that person out who just cut you off is a decision. We make 30,000 different decisions every single day. No wonder we are tired. But remember, I said average human beings. Innovators, people are performing at a high level. Entrepreneurs, CEOs are making between 40 to 50,000 decisions every single day. And guess what? Most of us have never calibrated our body to help us make the best decision. And so we end up in this really weird analysis paralysis that doesn't allow us to move forward as fast as we can. And so I want to take y'all through a quick exercise developed by this phenomenal woman named Martha Beck that is Body Compass. It actually helps you better train your mind to make the best decisive decisions for you so that you can move forward rapidly, but then you don't get burned out as an entrepreneur. But more than anything, when we talk about stepping into your genius and understanding that framework, it's going to feel uneasy in the body. And I want you to recognize what it is so that you can feel it, accept it, and then embody it and move forward. And so really quick, I'm going to have you close your eyes. Tell me what's on that board. You don't got your eyes closed. That's a test. All right, close your eyes, and I want you to think about one of the most joyous moments in your life. Maybe it was when you were 5 years old and you were blowing out candles. Or a really big win that you just received within your business. One of the most joyous, happiest moments of your life. Not just think about what just happened in your, what the thing is, what just happened in your body. Take a deep breath and then open your eyes. Hold on to whatever just happened in your body. You were smiling with your eyes closed, so that's why I know you had a joyous moment. Some of us, we were frowning and then like the corner of your lips just kind of turned up. Some of you, you literally readjusted your body in your seat and like kind of being tense like this where you're sitting and now you're a little bit more relaxed, thinking about the most joyous. Whatever just happened, whatever you did in your body, hold on to that. Close your eyes again. And I want you to think about a moment in your life that had a lot of anxiety. You were very uncertain. Things were questionable. You were stressed. But whatever it is, just anxiety written in your body. Hold on to whatever that moment was, but how it just registered in your body, and I want you to open your eyes. Take a deep breath if you need to. Hold on to whatever just happened. For some of you, I saw you kind of clenched your fist a little bit, right? Or you kind of relaxed in your body, but like your shoulders tensed back up. I saw that from some of you. Some of you, I saw like a flushing sensation in your skin as a result of that. All right, remember, compass is north, south, east, and west, so we have 2 more prompts around this. Close your eyes again. And I want you to think about a moment in your life that was disappointing. Either you disappointed someone or someone disappointed you. You thought the thing was gonna, you were gonna knock it out the park and it did not go the way that you intended. You were radically disappointed. My friend over here smiles for all emotions. same moment. He's like, all the emotions happen in this one thing. All right, so open your eyes, take a deep breath if you need to. I love you, I love you. All right, last one. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to take a deep breath. This is the last prompt around this. For some of us, this is the most deep breaths we've taken in a really, really long time. And as entrepreneurs, as innovators, as creators, you gotta breathe. Because that is the one thing that you can control that controls everything. And so I want you to think about one of the most innovative moments in your life. Most innovative moments in your life. Where you hit it out the park. There was a big problem and you created the solution to that problem. Where you felt, or the team or the people around you felt that this thing was absolutely impossible. And guess what? You are literally standing in impossibility. Because at one time you thought that you couldn't do this thing, achieve this thing, and guess what? You are here. Take a deep breath and then open your eyes. Some of you might need to take another deep breath. Guess what? Congratulations, you just calibrated your body with 4 emotions. Now let me tell you why that's really important. The next time you need to make a very big decision, and that maybe it's hiring somebody, and it registers in your body the same way disappointment just registered in your body, guess what? Don't hire that person. Our bodies hold on, there's a book that says our bodies hold on to trauma, but guess what? Our bodies also hold on to joy and creativity and excitement and good decisions and bad decisions. Guess what? We have very, very brilliant brains, but our brains can justify anything. You want to go right, but you're really supposed to go left? It said, run that light, girl, you okay? If the police are behind you, no one will ever know. Our brains are always going to tell us that. Our body's like, that's not what you're supposed to do. Our bodies hold on to everything. And as CEOs and executives and entrepreneurs, you got to get your body back in line with your heart and then also with your mind. So that you can literally run the race as fast as possible. You can make better decisions and more human-centered decisions. And so if the next time maybe you meet with an investor and it registers in your body the exact same way innovation, creativity just registered in your body, it's telling your body's literally telling you, make that decision. That is going to be your best decision based off of other decisions that you have made in the past that have registered and held into your body. It's aligning with those decisions. It is some of the most powerful work that you can ever do personally, but more importantly, do with your team. And so anytime you find other 4 prompts that you can use so that your body is fully in line with who you are and who you plan to be and where you plan for your company to go. But right now, we can ready to step into genius. And so I'm going to go through this really quick. I learned this framework from The Big Leap. It's a phenomenal book, one of the top 5 books I recommend to any entrepreneur. The book is by the author Gay Hendricks. This book came into my life when I was literally staring at the hard brick road of burnout. I was doing all the things, I had raised a ton of money, I was saying yes to everyone, but I was not into line with myself and what my biggest value was. And so I was literally stretched thin. Stretched thin to the point where I was leaving Miami, going to San Francisco. I needed to be in Kentucky the next day. If you've ever done the East Coast, West Coast flight, it'll literally burn you out, pull this thing out of you, right? You're exhausted, you're tired. I go there, I kill the meeting with the investor. Things are amazing, they're aligned. Go back to my hotel, I'm packing up. So I need to hurry up and mad dash to the airport so I can make it to Kentucky that night. Something in my body told me, Felecia, if you get on that plane, you're not going to make it. To this moment, I don't know what not gonna make it was, but I didn't want to find out. And I've been hearing this, but this moment, it was louder than it had ever been in my entire life. And so I had to listen. So I called my cute husband, I said, baby, I'm not gonna be able to make it to Kentucky that night. Something's telling me I just need to rest. I call the hotel and tell them I need to extend at least another night, maybe 2. And I sit back on my bed and tears just start gushing out of my eyes, y'all. They weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of exhaustion leaving my body. But more than anything, it was like, Felecia, you are accomplishing really amazing things externally, but they don't align with you internally. And as a result of that, you are burning out, you're burning the candle on both ends, and you may not be here for your family, yourself, your kids, or actually to be able to see the fruits of your labor. Is that what you really want? And so guess what? You have to choose. Yes, can you have all the things that you want? Yes, but not at the same time. You don't even want them at the same time. You don't need them at the same time. But you have to be clear on the path in which you're going to get there when they start. And guess what? Sometimes when that journey ends. And that was as loud as it could be for me. And this book Gay Hendricks wrote changed my life. And I've been walking around with the book for 6 months. And some of y'all like me, some of you will be honest. I took a picture for the gram. I'm reading this book, but guess what? I didn't really read the book. And not until I finally got on the plane home did I read the book, and it registered with me in a way that it had never registered before. And Bruce Lee has that quote, right? When the student is ready, guess who appears? The teacher appears. And this is my teacher and why I teach it to you. I love this framework so much, and it's been so transformational in my life that I spent 2 years studying literally at the feet of Gay Hendricks and Kathy Hendricks, who wrote the book. And now I'm here to share it with you. So there's 4 components to the zone of genius. Getting to your zone of genius. There's a zone of incompetence, the zone of competence, the zone of excellence, and the zone of genius. Your zone of incompetence, how do I say this, friend? Are all the things that you do that you have no business doing. You suck at doing these things. There's no other way to say it because it's not registering with people. You do not know how to do these things, and when you do them, they oftentimes cause more harm than good. But we say yes because we're people pleasers. What do you do personally and in your company that is in your zone of incompetence? You don't know how to do it. You should not be doing it, but you say yes because it looks cool or it looks cute or a client had a few dollars to throw at you, and so all of a sudden you build up this whole new business line in order to get the money. It is your zone of incompetence. You hate doing it. What are the things that are in your zone of incompetence? You have pen and paper, do a quadrant, horizontal line, vertical line, write down what is in your zone of incompetence. Next up is your zone of competence. You do know how to do these things. You have a level of competence in doing them. But guess what? There's so many other people in this world or so many other businesses that know how to do these things better than you. So stop doing them. What are the things that you know how to do? Can you do it? Yes. Should you do it? Absolutely not. What are the things that are in your zone of incompetence? I know how to do accounting. I can do it if I need to, but guess what? It's the thing that is going to be on the bottom of my to-do list every single week. That's why I married a financial analyst, right? And that's why I hired a CFO. Because one, I needed to do right, because if not, the 3 letters come after you. Y'all know what I'm talking about? IRS. Or JAIL, either one. And I don't want that, right? And I need it done in a quickness, in a swiftness, and with an accuracy that I know, can I do it? But I'm gonna have to Google some things. And that right there tells you that it's in your zone of incompetence and not your zone of genius. There's not an ease and a flow of me doing those things. So as a result of it, I know what I need to know in order to hire the person to hold them accountable, but it is not the thing that I shine in doing. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down around that? So what are the things that are in your zone of competence? Your zone of excellence. You are really good at doing these things. You have a level of excellence in doing them. People come to you and say, can you do this thing for me? And only the way that you can. And you say, yes, Josiah, yes, I can. You're good at it. You excel in that, literally zone of excellence. But guess what? Zone of excellence has an AKA, not the sorority, y'all. Also known as your comfort zone. You are really comfortable here. You make comfortable money here, you make comfortable impact here, you have a comfortable life. But I'm looking across this room, I don't think these are people, or you are people, that want to live a comfortable life. I think that you want to excel at the highest level. I think you fully want to understand what your strengths and your gifts are at the highest level, but you want an ease and a flow into which how you make your money, how you build your company, how you live your life, and how you impact your teams, and how you impact your communities, right? Are we aligned on that? So that doesn't happen in your zone of excellence box. Your zone of excellence box, you feel kind of stuck. You feel a little stagnant. Like, I'm good here, but I'm not great. And our team and our company, we hit the target here, but we never exceed the goal. And your true revenue potential is when you exceed your goals. That's where the real magic happens, right? And so if you've ever felt like, hey, if I leave this earth today, have I fully expended all of my gifts? And if you can't say definitively yes, guess what? You in your zone of excellence box, you're not in your zone of genius box. Your zone of genius is different. And so if you need a few seconds to write down what you feel your zone of excellence is, go ahead. The last two components of this, because remember I said that there are 5 steps, very easy. Does it work? Can I do it? Is it easy? Does it work? Can I do it? Yes, yes, and yes. Your zone of genius. So your zone of genius, and it's always a question that people ask me, like, what is my zone of genius? Did you go through the process of elimination? The first 3 questions are a process of elimination. You got to get rid of what is in your zone of incompetence, competence, and excellence before you can uncover your genius. They're literally stacked on top of your genius and weighing you down, weighing your potential down, weighing your bank account down, weighing your opportunities down. You cannot uncover your genius until you get an understanding of what the other 3 things are. Why? Because the 3 things you either need to outsource or stop doing, as an individual as well as your company. Your genius is different. Your genius is the essence of who you are. It's not a job title. It's not even really a job function. It's the essence of who you are. The people that step into their genius know that they don't know everything, but they have an insatiable desire to continue to learn. We look at people like that are lawyers, that are doctors, some of the people that in our communities make a significant income. Guess what? It's not a finite thing that they do. They call it a practice for a reason. When you're stepping into your genius, it's an iterative process where you continue to learn. But it's your thing. It's your secret sauce. It is literally the cliche thing that we've heard our entire life. I can be working for hours and it only feels like minutes. That is your genius showing up. I had a lady earlier today do my makeup, and she also works in government. She was just like, makeup is my genius. Like, I can do it for hours and it feels like minutes. And I'm like, that is your genius, bless you. And it's beautiful when you walk into someone's genius. It's absolutely beautiful. Genius, anyone know what the root word of the word confidence is? What is the root word of confidence? It's not a trick question. Y'all are smart people. Huh? Confide. And who do we confide in? People that we trust. Guess what? Stepping into your genius is not this bravado or ego thing. Stepping in your genius literally means, do you trust yourself? Do you trust that what you are making and what you're producing can produce results for others at the highest level? Do you trust yourself, and do people trust you as a result of the trust that you have in yourself because you were in your genius and the pocket of your genius any at all times? And if it is, that's the essence of who you are, and it shows up in the exact same way in everything that you do. And so as human beings, we're multifaceted people, and we're trying to constantly figure out like this linear life. You go to school, what's the one thing that you major in, and then what's the one thing that you're going to dedicate your life to for the next 50 or 60 years until you retire, and then you really live your life. No, you're multifaceted people. You're interested in a lot of different things. You sit on boards, you volunteer, you run multiple companies, but guess what? Your genius shows up in the exact same way in every single thing that you do. So from running Black Ambition to investing in a hip hop ice cream shop, I didn't even get time to talk to you about the 7 years that I ran a gourmet popsicle manufacturing company after falling down chasing in heels. That's why I was really careful getting up on this stage, because I don't have a track record and wearing heels without falling down. You get what I'm saying? That had a client roster of Google, PayPal, Amazon, Airbnb, Whole Foods that would make your head spin. That is my real entry into entrepreneurship, and ran that company for 7 years and then sold it. And I learned my genius showed up in the exact same way. If I was making the ice cream, guess what? My business partner was like, Felecia, get the heck out of the kitchen. But when I stepped into my genius of being a solution-driven communicator, guess what? The marketing took off. And as a result of the marketing taking off, then we were able to attract all these major corporate clients. And I was able to attract an investor that put $1 million into our business 15 years ago. These are the things that happen as a result of me stepping into genius. But if I say, you know what, we need another person to make popsicles, can I do it? Yes. Should I do it? Absolutely not. All right, so the last part of this I want to share, because I want to make sure, are we on track for questions? Okay. Your genius. We expect genius from every single person around us, but oftentimes we do not expect it from ourselves. And I'm going to give you a prime example. If you needed to go get, God forbid, brain surgery next week, right? And you are meeting with neurologists because you want to be real comfortable with the person that's getting ready to cut into your head. They're getting ready to do some of the most important work on your body ever. Guess what? There is no room for error. They better get it right. This is not practice anymore, right? Like, they better know what they're doing. And you're meeting with them because you should be meeting with them. You got to be comfortable with this person. You may be asking them about their qualifications. And you're sitting across that person, and they say, you need me next Thursday at 2 o'clock? I got to go play. I'm going to play golf. I'm not moving golf for you. But I can be there by like 3:30. You're like, who are you? And they say, you know what? Don't go look at my like WebMD or my Yelp score, whatever it is. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Don't go look at that. Yeah, that's not very useful information in this moment. You also be like, who is this person? And if they say, I'm going to give you light anesthesia because I may need your help with the scalpel and a few of these other tools, because you look like you know what you're doing. I do a little bit. I don't really know how I got through med school. That's not even important. I am here, and I'm available at 3:30. That's what we sound like when we say yes to the things that are in our zone of incompetence. I might need a little help with the scalpel. I'm going to give you light anesthesia because you need to be awake enough to tell me if I'm cutting too deep or not. Don't go look at my track record, because I don't really have a great track record in this. But guess what? I'm available. And you look like you need someone to say yes to you. That is what we look like. And guess what? Our results are questionable or detrimental. And sometimes it gets that serious. Y'all picking up what I'm putting down about this? And so that's why it's so important to step into your genius, but that's when you lock your zones of opportunity. And so when we talk about opportunity, I'm going to skip this because I want to come back to that in questions. Your zone of opportunity is the other part. And so some of the most prolific and amazing authors, speakers, gurus oftentimes have very incomplete processes. And so going through this framework and embodying it and injecting it into my life, I'm like, I now know what my genius is. I'm a solution-driven communicator. When I speak to solve problems. And I can synthesize very complicated information in a way that anybody can understand and know exactly what to do with it. And I can have that same conversation with a head of state, the president of the United States, and I can have that exact same conversation with a grandmother, and they both know exactly what they need to do. That's immense power, right? And so there is your genius, and then there's what happens as a result of your genius. By any standard, clearly, I told y'all my high school story, raised millions of dollars for the Center for Black Innovation, raised millions of dollars for the work that we do in Black Ambition. Why? Because we got to give millions of dollars away to amazing entrepreneurs. By any standard, people would say, your fundraising must be your zone of genius. It's not. If all I did with my life was fundraise, please poke my eye out today. But guess what? It happens as a result of my genius. It happens as a result of my genius. Entrepreneurs are supported with the things that they need as a result of my genius. But if I don't come and deliver in the way that I do and take information and be able to synthesize it and communicate it so people not just feel inspired, you know exactly what to do, then those things don't happen. And so you got to know your genius, and then you map out what you want to happen as a result of your genius. And the last part of that is you got to create your zones of opportunity. What are the things that you want to happen in your life as a result of your genius? You have to map that out. And so there's this saying that I grew up with, and many of you may know this, is our gifts will make room for us. Anyone heard that? I heard that growing up. And it's an incomplete statement. Yes, your gifts will make room for you only if you tell it what rooms to take you in. And if you do not tell your gifts and your genius, your expertise, where to take you, it's just this nice thing to have. And so you have to design your life. You have to design your business in order to tell you where it needs to go. Shay has some worksheets so that y'all can take this with you so that you can identify what your zones of opportunity is by asking these 3 questions. What is your zone of impact? What is your zone of revenue? And what is your zone of activity? How much money do you want to bring in as a result of your genius? Extremely important question, because you got to pace and track towards some sort of revenue goal, some sort of income goal. Otherwise, you just want to make a lot of money. That's cool. We pick up all these really random colloquialisms that we use in our culture. Like, I want some coins. Listen to that. Do you really want to attract coins? I don't think so, right? Or I'm trying to get to the bag. Who has said that? I said that because it was in a song. And then I was just like, I'm getting bags. There's a garbage bag here. There's a trash bag over here. There's a Payless bag over here. And guess what? Our words matter. So I'm literally attracting bags, and I'm attracting coins, and I'm looking around, it's like, why does this not make any sense? Because I'm attracting the thing that I said. So if you want bags, what kind of bag? A bag full of money? Yes. A bag full of opportunities? Yes. But how much money, how many opportunities? You got to get very specific and granular on that. And the last part, your zone of activity. What do you want to do in your life as a result of your genius so that it's not running you ragged? Because if you're not careful as an entrepreneur, you will literally create another job for yourself, as opposed to the freedom and the abundance in which you want afforded to you as a result of your genius. Y'all, we do not create abundance. We do not create abundance. Abundance exists all around us. What we do as human beings is create the limitations that stop us from fully understanding our abundance. We create the limitations. We do not create the abundance. It literally exists all around us if we look at it with a different set of eyes, like the story I told y'all before. So I'll pause there so that we have a few minutes for questions.
Anybody have questions?
Hi.
Hey.
First, I want to say fantastic speaking. Really feel very inspired, and also you did do a good job on giving clear direction. Something that in this moment, as I sit and I listen, that I kind of struggle with at times is not necessarily the creation of jobs, but the balancing of being an entrepreneur, of being a father, of being a son, and also just a team member. You know, at times it feels like I'm being pulled in a lot of different directions, but I understand that I'm being pulled because there's a need from those people. How do you navigate that? Because I think that that's something that kind of goes unspoken.
Okay, so we talked about it, right, in a number of ways. How do I say this? Work-life balance does not exist. It is actually BS. You will be on a hamster wheel of chaos trying to achieve work-life balance. It doesn't exist. You are going to have to choose the things that are most important to you. And sometimes we're in seasons of different things, right? And so you could be in a season of like radical and amazing parenthood. And guess what? That means some things are either going to fall by the wayside or you got to pick them up in your new season. When people say work-life balance, it keeps us on this hamster wheel, and you got to ask yourself, who benefits from my exhaustion? Because guess what? There are systems and people that benefit from you being so tired that you can't show up for anybody, and you definitely can't show up for yourself. And then there's people that it's to the detriment that you can't show up as your whole self because you're so exhausted. It's two sides of that. And so you literally have to make some choices. And guess what? In those choices, people are going to be disappointed. And you know what? If you are on this journey to entrepreneurship, you're going to disappoint a lot of people, and you got to build a fortitude around your mind and your heart to handle that. I got friends that I have lost in this entrepreneurial journey, right? Like, they just don't understand the journey. They don't understand the schedule. They don't understand that I'm not available. And unfortunately, it's a casualty to this dream. But I had to get to a point where I said, I will reconcile that casualty of that relationship at a certain point, but I can't right now. They're requiring something out of me that I just don't have to give them. I don't have it. And if I give it to them, guess what? I take away from the time that I have with my kids. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Because these are the three things that are important to me. My family is utmost important, right? The business and the organization, because the broader impact of what I'm doing is also important. And then my faith and myself. Those are my 4 non-negotiables. Nothing stands in the way of those things. Why? Because if my kids need something, guess what? The meeting or the Zoom can be rescheduled. But I cannot reschedule that moment that I will never get back with my kids. Y'all understand what I'm saying? And so I have something coming up on the 16th of June. I need to be in Dallas. My daughter has a dance recital. It's her first dance recital. I am literally watching my daughter in her genius. My daughter loves to dance. Like, ever since she was a kid, if a jingle come on, a closing credit, she's getting up and dancing. And so she's in a dance program for the first time. She loves. Chores are getting done. Like, there is nothing that stands in the way of her going to dance. Uniform is like all of those things. And so this is her first recital. Guess what? I got to be in Dallas, but I'm coming home that night because I cannot miss that. That is a non-negotiable. And if it comes to it, I will cancel that thing to not miss her thing because it's a non-negotiable. Everything else can be figured out. I can do a Zoom as opposed to physically being there. Like, you understand? So it gives you a flexibility, but it also gives you boundaries. And as entrepreneurs leading companies, you gotta have boundaries, because when you can produce, guess what? Everyone starts coming to you to do and solve every problem, whether it's in your genius or not. And the thing I love about genius is it gives you a vocabulary to use with people. It gives your team a vocabulary to say, you know what? You're asking me to do that, but that's not my genius. And you were doing this thing, and guess what? It's not your genius. My team is tired of me saying genius, but you guess what? I have empowered them in ways that they've never been empowered before, because I can only perform in my genius if they are in their genius. And it's given me a whole other way to build the team, so the things that are in my zone of incompetence, zone of competence, and zone of excellence, well, guess what? If the thing needs to get done in the business that is not my genius, I gotta find someone who that thing that is in my zone of incompetence is their genius. And then you got a genius squad. Right? But you also have to think about, as CEOs, no one likes to put a price on their time and their worth as CEOs. I completely get it. But guess what? There is a dollar amount in which when you go out and get it, it comes back in a certain financial return to the business. What do I mean by that? If I fundraise. We give out $3.5 million at Black Ambition every single year in the way we invest. So guess what? I got to make sure I raise a minimum of what? 3.5 million. Minimum. It's really closer to 10 that needs to be raised every single year. And so can I go run the front desk at our dinner? Yes, I can do it, but that's maybe a $20 an hour position. So if Felecia is running the front desk, it's not saving the organization or the company $20 an hour. Guess what? What is it costing us? How much? Or maybe even 10, because I'm now not in the room with our corporate partners, fostering the relationship, nurturing the relationship, making sure that they are funding us multi-year. It's not costing us $20 when I'm not in our genius. It's literally costing us 9 million and whatever. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Yeah. That is the weight of what happens when you are not in your genius in your company. You are not saving the company money by making the copies or sending the emails. You are costing your company significant revenue. You gotta stay in your genius, and your team has to stay in theirs as well. Right here.
Yeah, so sometimes when you're operating in your zone of excellence, sometimes your zone of genius will, you said it shows up in everything. So sometimes you'll, as a result of your zone of genius, you might be doing something in your zone of excellence, but it isn't your zone of genius. And you invest a lot into it. So how do you make that pivot once you realize that this was just a side effect of your zone of genius? How do you pivot if you've already invested a lot into your zone of excellence?
So once you honestly fill out the things that are in the box, you got to take the time to do that. You cannot skip that step because it's going to give you a lot of clarity, right? There is another framework that's really helpful, and I have it in my Zone of Genius, my Genius Jam book, is the Eisenhower framework for productivity. You can literally take your answers on what you did for the quadrant of the 5 questions around your zone of genius, and then overlay the Eisenhower framework on top of that. The Eisenhower framework laid over is really brilliant and is even much more simpler. And so in the genius box are the things that you do, right? Do is a part of the Eisenhower framework. In your zone of excellence, it says decide. You make decisions that influence the work that needs to be done in your zone of excellence, but you don't do those things anymore. You make the decision. You are an advisory and a consulting capacity because those things still need to be done in support of you and your excellence, but you are not supposed to do them. But you make the decision, the advisory of the team, of the consultants, of the contractors, of whoever to do those things. It still requires your ideas and your vision. It doesn't require your body capacity to do that. Your zone of competence are the things that you delegate. So delegate is the third part of the Eisenhower framework. Everything in your zone of competence box, delegate. You don't need to make a decision on it. You don't need to touch it. You don't need to do any of that. And everything that is in your zone of incompetence box is delete. So delete, delegate, decide, and do. You lay that on. Don't do that first. Do your zone of genius first. Lay it on top. It makes it so easy to know exactly what to do moving forward from there. But you, in the journey, because it's a journey to your genius, you're going to toggle between the excellence and the genius. And I can't stand up here and tell you that I don't toggle between the both, but I constantly got to check myself where I get to a point where I'm feeling unbalanced, because what you really need to be is aligned, and I'm feeling a little off kilter. I'm feeling a little too exhausted when I'm doing the thing that I'm doing. Guess what? I have picked up things and I'm doing things, or I'm holding on and I've become the bottleneck for things that are in my zone of excellence box. I just need to make a decision on that, and I need to let it go. And so the biggest strength that you can have as an entrepreneur is to let things go. You have to let things go. Otherwise, your genius doesn't bring the income and revenue into your business the way it needs to, because you're doing all these other things. Stop. Prime example. I hate email. I hate email with a passion. Somebody in here can say amen. I hate email. If you want me to not see something, email me. I'm not going to see it. Not that I don't see it. I'm one of those people. I read every email, actually. I read everyone. And in my mind, I have responded to you. But I haven't responded to you. And so my team would be like, Felecia, I sent you that email. I say, oh yeah, I remember. And I can tell them exactly what to, but to email respond back, oh, don't. So guess what I had to do? I have an executive assistant called Alexis who loves email to a point where it's a little disturbing and strange. And most people are like, I thought she was AI because she responded to the email. I literally just pressed send, and in 0.5 seconds, I got to respond because she loves email. Felecia, on the other hand, I emailed you 6 months ago. So I had to work with her to have a better response time. So there's a promptness and a professionalism. She does email scrubs for me. So if it gets too crazy in my email box, she brings everything to the top and say, Felecia, these are priority things that you need to respond to. Right? And she literally goes through my email in support of me because I can't not do email. I just don't like it. I actually hate it. And so that's a good example of the business can literally fall apart because deals are coming through that. I got to respond to stuff, but it's not, and I don't know what it is. I just don't like it. And so, because I don't like it, I don't function in a high level in responsiveness that people are used to. So I had to bring somebody on who loves it. And it makes me look amazing as a result of it. Because like, man, I got a response to that in 2 minutes. Yes. Yes. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Okay, go ahead. Oh, I'm so sorry. Right here.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you first for sharing your story with us. So my question is, you kind of answered it a little bit, but you found the zone of genius, right? Before that, you were kind of working, I'm going back to your high school story, you kind of had to do it independently. Nobody was going to hold your hand, but you still need to get it done, right? So with your zone of genius, you found other people to become a team with you, but how did you motivate yourself beforehand, before learning of the zone of genius for yourself?
So before I learned Zone of Genius, there was this quote, and I meant to mention it when I was telling that story. It's an Eisenhower quote, and that's why you literally see Eisenhower's face in a bunch of stuff, because he was so transformational for me. There's this quote that he had that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its entire life feeling like it was stupid. I'm gonna say it one more time. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, because fishes don't climb trees. If they do, please go run in the other direction. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it would live its entire life feeling like it's stupid. That quote came to me by some presentation with Sir Ken Isaacson. Go watch his TED Talk, just brilliant about the education system and how it just fails most students. It failed me, right? Because I thought I was inadequate because I didn't have the proper grades. And guess what? I'm a kinesthetic learner. I love working with my hands. I had 15 hours in community service by the time I graduated. I played 5 sports. I was on the leadership team. I spoke at my high school graduation. These are all things that never represented itself in my GPA. Why? Because I was being judged by something that was not my genius and my skill set. And I kept struggling to live up to this metric of success that wasn't me. Right? And so if you look at my career, how did I get here? I'm not supposed to be here, right? By any like normal standards of how we judge things. And so you have to get comfortable of creating your own normal and your own sense of excellence and your own metrics of how you judge yourself, but how you empower yourself and your team. And so like that quote was the driver for me, literally my entire life. And every lesson that I said that I learned at 17, when that guidance counselor told me I'd never make it to college. The best thing she could have done for me is actually say those things. But the best thing that my family could have done for me up until that point was give me the mental fortitude to not embody what she said, so it became my reality. And so a lot of my work has stemmed upon, well, how many other students did she say that to, that they have not actualized their potential because they took what she said at face value. And I've met so many kids ran a coding program that like supported 2 million students across the world, like across the United States, and teachers and teaching them how to code. I did that because of what she said to me. But also knowing that there were so many kids back in my hometown, so many kids I meet right now who their guidance counselor, whose job title is guidance. That's her job title. Told them that they can't do any at 17. My God, how does she have that responsibility and that right? And I was able to channel that in another way, but it's not healthy to have those people dictate our lives and embody that. And so it was that. And then it was a lot of training and fellowships and Echo and Green fellowships. Like if there is a program that I could have joined to help me because I'm curious, I joined that program. And I joined that opportunity. And I stepped in over and over and over again. And like that's why this week is so important. Like you get what you can get out of it, and then you got to deploy it. And so if you only come here, I think y'all had some free food. I think y'all gonna have some amazing like libations and stuff later today. But if you only come here for a little dose of inspiration, and you don't look around this room and say, man, they've cultivated a phenomenal room of the person that can be my next co-founder, my next customer, my next whatever, then you are not fully assessing the value of what has been created for you this week. And if we only come in thinking of all of our problems and not saying this is a massive opportunity for me to be able to take what I need, but guess what? Also contribute my genius to this room before this event is over, then you've missed the sole reason into why this is created and why this needs to be supported for the future. You cannot build in isolation. You only can build in community. And you gotta build up the community before you extract from the community. And so that's why genius is so powerful and why I say it shows up in the exact same way of everything they do. Whatever you do in your genius, in your organization, you bring that genius in support of this event as well. You bring it here in support of it as well, because it's been a beautiful experience for me to literally walk into y'all genius. And you know when you walk into a business or an environment or a conference and an event, and you're like, they in their genius. It feels different. The energy is different. It doesn't feel like you're depleted, like you're energetic and you're ready to go. But you gotta contribute before you extract. And that is the biggest lesson that I learned with my husband, literally building Miami's startup ecosystem over the past like 10, 12 years.
Once again, I'll resound it. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to actually hear you speak. How well do you feel like you're aligned with your uninterrupted self right now? And how does your uninterrupted self evolve as you go forward?
And how does my uninterrupted what?
Self evolve as you go forward.
That's a good question. And so I feel like I'm in complete alignment with it and like on the pathway of where I want it to take me, right? It changes, honestly, every time I ask that question of myself. It also changes every time I see people like post videos and respond to that question. I think that video between TikTok and Instagram had 5 million views. And so I love that it's been so transformational for people because it was transformational for me, right? And so for me, like there's some uninterrupted things that I share personally, share publicly, and there's some things that I kind of hold close to the chest because it's really important to me, right? And so for me, like my uninterrupted self is being able to fully stand in like the creative pocket of my genius in support of other people. That is it. And if anything stands in the way and interrupts that, then I can't have the legacy impact that I want to have on my family first, and then the legacy impact that I want to have on other people's families as a result of what I get to do with Black Ambition. Like, Black Ambition's work, for the most part, because some of it stresses me out. That's the nature of running anything, right? And doing anything in conviction that's bigger than yourself. But the work and the legacy that I feel we're building is aligned with me in the work that I do with Black Ambition. But there's so much more work that I want to do if I think about the barriers that stand in the way of me doing this were removed, right? And if I can get to that point, then like, oh my God, right? The other part of uninterrupted Felecia that I'm gonna tell you is I'm a Pisces. I wanna live by the beach. My husband knows that, right? And uninterrupted Felecia is feeding into waking up and looking at the ocean. I'm gonna be very honest. I live by the bay, I live in Miami, so I get to see water. That's helpful, but being by the beach, and why? Because when I talk about the fact that abundance isn't something that we create, it exists all around us. When I feel that wavering, when the work gets too heavy, and it gets as abundant as it is to work for Pharrell, it gets really heavy because people assume that we have all the resources that we need. And that's a whole other thing that I've had to personally grapple with, coming from a scrappy social entrepreneur to now being in the space of abundance, is like there's a lot of stuff that we need that people think that we just have. We're good, right? There's a lot of people that overcharge us right now because they think we're good. No, we're still a nonprofit. We got resources. And those are things that are nuanced that we have to deal with, that our team has to deal with. Disappointment. When we get 2,000 applications a year, but we're only mentoring 250, guess what? That's 1,700 entrepreneurs we gotta say no to. And I know what it's like to feel like on the other end of that no, and that's hard. And sometimes we get some really ugly emails, and that's hard too. And I know where that passion is coming from, but these are things, just some of the things that we deal with. And so when I say the beach being a part of like my uninterrupted, when you go out and look at the beach, when you're wavering, you see no interruptions. All you see is blue, all you see is vastness, and all you see is beauty. And I want everybody to be able to see that. And when I need my battery recharged, because we all need it recharged, I want to be able to look at that every single day and say, how do we create this blue ocean of opportunities for the entrepreneurs that are creative, killing it, and just like building amazing things if they just get the opportunities and the resources and people get the hell out their way. Because that's the part that frustrates me is people have gotten too comfortable wasting the time of Black and brown entrepreneurs especially. And time is the only commodity that you get, you do not get back. Time is infinitely more valuable than money. Time is not money. Money can be reprinted. It can be, clearly we live in the United States as a whole, sorry. It can be regained. But time, if someone wastes your time, you do not get it back. And so time is infinitely more valuable than money. And so I don't like to waste people's time, and I don't like my time to be wasted. But the ocean represents that vastness for me. Okay. Last question right here.
Can I get it on Amazon, or where do I get your book?
The current book is called Genius Jam, and it pretty much kind of goes through a lot of what I talked about today. But a little bit more in depth on how you answer that questions and deeper questions. So it's more of a workbook than a book, and you can get it on my personal site, FeleciaHatcher.com.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right, let's
All
give it
right,
up
thank you guys.